Thank you. Television has been called democracy at its ugliest. Our guest tonight might argue that trying to regulate television and the rest of the confusing, conglomerating communications industry is really democracy at its ugliest. Not since 1961, when our own Newton Minow described TV as a vast wasteland, has a chairman of the Federal Communications Commission made such headlines. Amazingly and unintentionally, Michael Powell has become a media star. Even more amazingly, in this age of reality TV, he's done it without eating live insects on TV. He has, however, ruffled more than a few feathers. As a result, some say the Beltway buzzards are circling, anxious to pick at his political carcass. But don't count him out. Michael Powell has met and mastered bigger challenges than this. He was born the oldest son of a military man who would later become chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Secretary of State of the United States. As a young man, he followed his father into the Army. But then fate intervened. A Jeep in which he was riding flipped over and basically broke him in half. He was not expected to live. During surgery, he was given more than 18 units of blood, twice the body's normal supply. He spent a year in the hospital and another year learning to walk again, but he prevailed. Michael Powell's military career was over, so he took his life in a new direction. He graduated from Georgetown University Law Center. He worked for a Washington law firm specializing in communication and antitrust law before serving as Chief of Staff of the Antitrust Division in the Department of Justice. In 1997, he was appointed to the FCC by then President Clinton, and in 2001, President Bush named him chairman. In that role, he has tackled a number of thorny issues, from media mergers to new regulations for local telephone competition. But the biggest brouhaha came earlier this year when the Commission voted to relax the rules against media concentration. Locally, the changes meant that one company could now own up to 3 TV stations in large markets or own a broadcast outlet and a newspaper in the same city. Nationally, it meant that one company could own stations that reach 45% of U.S. households, up from 35%. A firestorm quickly followed. More than 1 million negative emails poured into the Commission. Political odd couples, like the National Rifle Association and the National Organization for Women, joined hands in opposition. In a burst of bipartisanship, Congress overwhelmingly voted against implementing at least some of the new provisions. A federal appeals court followed suit. What was everyone worried about? Well, it was probably prophetic that Philo Farnsworth, the inventor of television, chose a $ sign as the first image he transmitted. Media is big business, too big in the eyes of some. Detractors predicted that a few media giants would hold a virtual monopoly on news, information, and entertainment. The decision, they said, signaled the death of diversity in broadcasting, if not the death of democracy itself. Michael Powell says the contrary. The marketplace is more abundant than ever. More than 20 years ago, a character on the sitcom Taxi said the great thing about television is that when something important happens anywhere in the world, day or night, you can always change the channel. But back then, there were fewer than a dozen channels to choose from. Today, there are more than 100 and counting. It's hard to say any industry that employs both Rush Limbaugh and Ozzy Osbourne isn't diverse. Michael Powell also says the death of democracy argument is overblown. The Civil War didn't bring down democracy, he told an interviewer. Hitler didn't bring down democracy. And I don't think television in America is going to bring down democracy. Who's right? The jury is still out, both in the federal court and in the court of public opinion. Meanwhile, Michael Powell has been called one of the most widely criticized men in Washington, which, when you think about it, is really saying something. On the other hand, anyone who can anger that many lobbyists, politicians, and special interest group has to be doing something right. That's probably what his famous father would say. They touch base almost every day. They share weekend dinners whenever he's in town, and his family at home keeps him grounded too. He's recently joked that his media-savvy 9-year-old son considered selling some of the family furniture on eBay to support his allowance. So expect Michael Powell to stick to his guns. Embattled he may be, but for a son steeped in the soldier's ethic, that's not the worst place you can be. Someone once defined television as the bland leading the bland. The description doesn't apply to Michael Powell. He takes on the tough issues, he says what he thinks, and I'm sure tonight will be no exception. So please join me in welcoming the Chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Michael Powell.
Well, thank you. For a minute there, I wondered if that was an introduction or a eulogy. Thank you for bringing up all that painful history. But really, it's my great, great honor to be in Chicago, where there's great food, great baseball, and I rather like the brand of economics practiced in this town. And I really want to thank the Economic Club for inviting me. This is truly a great and rare privilege and honor for me. It is a notable association with a long tradition of free-thinking, economic-minded people, and it is really, really my pleasure to be with you, and I thank the club for doing it. And to my predecessor, Newt, it looks as vast as ever. I'll leave to you how wasted it is, but I am glad to be here. Well, I want to wish everybody a happy holiday season. This is a wonderful time of year, especially for children. Many of us are rushing around to find that special gift for our kids. Have you noticed, though, that almost every special toy on their list seems to have a power plug or battery? Everything has suddenly gone digital. Gone are Lincoln Logs, Mr. Potato Head, Etch-a-Sketch from the Christmas lists of our little darlings. No, instead their lists read like the procurement budget of a small IT department. They want Xbox, PlayStation, Game Boy, DVD players, digital cameras, Palm Pilots, and cell phones. These gadgets are packed with massive computing power. Do you realize that the Xbox that your son has his hands on is more than 17,000 times faster than the computer on the Apollo command module that guided Neil Armstrong to the moon? And more, this stuff is networked in your house and to the world through the internet. We are witnessing the rise of the first digital generation. Our kids are bathed in bits. As Dan Tapscott notes in his book, Growing Up Digital, kids are accustomed to the strong presence of technology in their lives, and they will develop and superimpose their culture on the rest of society. They are learning, playing, communicating, working and creating communities very different than their parents. They are a force of social transformation. Well, let me tell you, I have this new species of kid right under my roof. My two sons, Jeffrey and Brian, are digital age creatures. I first noticed how far they had advanced from my own generation while we were cleaning out the basement recently. were plowing through stuff when Jeff, sort of like Dr. Leakey, made a fantastic discovery. He stumbled on a record player. He pulled it up, dusted it off. Dad, what on earth is this thing? Now, I was not amused to realize that I was suddenly part of the elevator music generation, but I explained to him as best I could what it was. He seemed curious about this relic, not quite able to piece it together. Meanwhile, his younger brother, Brian, who was digging north of the water heater, discovered a box of old records. He exclaimed, "Jeff, come quick, I've found the missing link." They pulled the black vinyl from its cardboard sleeve. Even the cover seemed Neanderthal to these digital archaeologists, and I worked to explain how it all worked. They were dismayed you couldn't load it into a computer or play it in a portable music player. They quickly lost interest, left the vinyl for dead, and raced off to play Super Mario Brothers. I sat there disoriented in the rubble and committed myself to study this new species, which I personally named Homo digitaeus. It's only a working title. Now, let me share some of my experiences so far. They may be familiar to you. Jeff, my oldest son, will soon be 15 years old. He's a typical teenager. I asked him the other day what he wanted most if he could have anything, and he said, a 1972 Chevy Chevelle. I thought, this is wonderful. Some things don't change. Some things are timeless. A teenage boy who wants a classic car. Then he suddenly blurted out, but Dad, for it to really rock, it better have satellite radio. Now, my teenager apparently has his first girlfriend. And I say apparently because I rarely see her. They spend most of their time together in cyberspace. Instant Messenger is the new ice cream parlor, the drive-in, or the mall. Instant Messenger, I know the girl's smiley face icon on Instant Messenger better than I know her. I figure it's not too bad, though. I figure as long as they're touching keyboards and not each other, I still have time to muster my nerve to talk about the birds and the bees. But then there's my 9-year-old son, Brian, a digital Leonardo. This child expects nothing less than to be within arm's length of some digital device and to be plugged into the net whenever he wants. We recently experienced a hurricane in Virginia and were without power for a few days. Brian burst into our room grief-stricken. What do you mean there's no power? I can't play Xbox? No. I can't get on the internet? No. I cannot watch a movie? No. He sulked away. I said, go read a book, play outside. I heard him get dressed and head outside, and I thought this is going to be wonderful. He's going to get some needed fresh air. I looked out the window, and I saw him and 5 friends piling into our Lincoln Navigator with a box of DVDs and popcorn. He had realized I could watch movies in the car. Now, this kid hates television, a kid who hates television. And I ask him why, and he responds, Dad, it doesn't do anything. To him, the remote control is passé. He has to command his media. So one final story before I move on. Even quaint traditions like the tooth fairy are not safe from digital danger. Brian wanted to know if there was a tooth fairy after losing his last tooth. We said yes, wanting him to keep that magic in his life just a little longer. So he went to bed. And late that night, my wife Jane creeped into his room to put some money under the pillow, and suddenly, a loud siren goes off. This is a true story. Brian pops out of bed, and Jane screams, Brian, what is that? He smiles sinisterly. It's my tooth fairy trap. Does it work? She said. He looked at her with an air of superiority and said, looks like it worked to me, tooth fairy. Okay, so maybe my kids are a bit overboard, but they're not atypical. This world may seem completely foreign to us, but it is natural to them. And it provides a glimpse into the next decade when these Homo digitalis become adult. And as the scripture says, a child shall lead them. These children are our future. They will, in a very few years, become the purveyors of commerce and society's consumers. They will be our workers and our leaders, our politicians and our voters. They are the key to our prosperity. They will leave their youth with breathtaking technological expectations about the way to work and the way to play. And our mission is to prepare the way for them, for they are growing and growing up quickly. Our kids and the technologies they embrace show us what our society will look like from a personal perspective, and by an extension, what business will look like as it adapts to accommodate these new citizens. The digital revolution is the most important economic development of our time. We must be guided by the fundamentals of technology in planning for tomorrow. In brief, two great technological trends have converged to change our lives. The first is the communications revolution. Ever since James Maxwell codified the laws of electromagnetism, innovators have been developing more ways to communicate electronically. The basic principles brought us the telegraph and then the telephone, the radio and then the television. But the second critical breakthrough occurred when Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore first assembled a silicon computer chip. With the birth of the microprocessor, our world changed forever. We have all been witness to the explosion of computing power. As chips become faster, cheaper, and smaller, entire new possibilities for data and information become possible. The information age we live in now was ignited when computers merged with communications. Suddenly there was a new language for communicating, and it consisted of only two digits, 0 and 1. Put those two digits together in one order and they are a picture taken from your digital camera. Put them in another order and they are a song on an MP3 player. Your messages could now be converted into computer language, and as such could be manipulated and controlled rather than just repeated. A photo can be improved, cutting out an old girlfriend, for example. A video clip can be stored on your computer and watched when you are ready. Music, as the industry has painfully learned, could be copied and shipped around the world, and not just by Sony's shipping department. Just think of the explosion in innovation that has sprung up in just 25 years. Email, instant messaging, digital cameras, eye-popping video game consoles, plasma televisions, cell phones that get smaller then get smarter, home networks using free wireless spectrum and low-cost devices, music sharing programs, Palm Pilots, Blackberries, satellite TV, and digital television. Most importantly, all these little mini computers can now be attached to a network. They can find each other. They afford users unprecedented access to information from around the world, allowing them to shop from any store or get medical advice from a doctor thousands of miles away. Personal power had arrived. If one understands the fundamental drivers of technology, silicon, storage, and speedy access, you can see how our lives will continue to change. The computer gets smaller and more powerful by the day, and storage of information gets cheaper and larger by the hour. This is driving more powerful devices into simpler, smaller, and cheaper forms. Thus, you see an explosion of consumer electronic gadgets that are putting massive amounts of intelligence and power into our hands. Just consider that the iPod music player from Apple, barely larger than a credit card, can store the entire contents of the ancient library at Alexandria and have enough capacity left over to store enough songs to play for 2 weeks straight without ever repeating a song. As the technology continues to evolve, computing will become pervasive, indeed invisible. I recently visited a lab working on smart dust, tiny little sensors equipped with radios. Such devices can be scattered, like dust, almost anywhere, and collect and transmit minute changes in environment. These devices are being used today on grapevines and in forests to measure conditions optimal for growth. To boil it all down, more and more power will be shifted to individuals. Traditionally, in communication services, a corporate carrier and a regulator stand at the center of everything. The service provider controls the brains of the network, and regulators set the rules. The carrier makes the decisions about when your phone rings, what number you will have, what services are available to you, and at what price. Your telephone is a dumb machine. You have little role in this system other than to pay your bill. The internet paradigm puts more of those choices into the hands of individuals at the edge of the network. Thus, as smart, powerful devices go from your desktop to your lap, to your palm, and beyond, you will be able to connect them to a network capable of reaching out to every source in the world. This is a radical departure from the cozy world of telephone regulation. Consumers, like our children, will be more in command. The internet paradigm promises more choices of service, more flexibility, and cheaper rates. With a smart machine and the internet, you also get more personalized experiences. You've already seen this in the trend in the computer product world. PCs from Dell are made to specification. Websites allow high degrees of customization. Amazon.com may be cool, but Amazon, my Amazon, is tailored to me. I see the books that I like and the DVDs that I prefer. And the more I use it, the more it breaks in like a nice leather jacket. This high degree of personalization is also moving in to communications products and services. Just take the cell phone. It is transforming voice communications in part because it is a more personalized communication device. It is mobile. It goes with you everywhere. The type of phone you choose reflects your personality, flip or candy bar style. The interfaces and faceplates available to suit your mood, wallpapers of your choice. Who would have imagined that folks would be paying good money to download personalized ringtones? But they are. You can even set up different rings for different people in your lives. Even billing packages offer plans that fit individual lifestyles. Now just compare those features with that telephone sitting on your desk. Now consider trends in television, the ultimate mass medium. 30 years ago, you had basically three choices: CBS, ABC, and NBC. You had to watch the news at an appointed time, or you missed it. It was a one-way street. The network picked what you watched, and when you watched it, and you just sat there. We even coined the phrase in our culture, couch potato, to describe our lethargic experience. With the arrival of cable, it brought more choices built around smaller, more diverse interests. You still couldn't pick exactly what you wanted at a given time, but you could be guaranteed to see a particular type of programming. On the History Channel, you'll find history. ESPN, 24 hours a day, dedicated to sports. And our kids watch children's programming almost exclusively on Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, Wham, and Cartoon Network. And I dare say if you ask your children, they can't even tell you the difference between a broadcast channel and another channel. And cable, too, is moving to interactive services, movies on demand, and personal digital recorders, all to personalize experience. Now just look at the internet and devices like TiVo. People don't make appointments to work or to be entertained. They have and will have an enormous library to choose from on demand. They will pick what and when they will watch or listen. And more they will choose what form they will do that in. Now turning back to music, witness what we have seen. Users can sit down at a smart machine and listen to hundreds of radio stations from around the world. Perhaps your old college radio station for old time's sake. Or perhaps you want to download the song you danced to at your wedding. Or better yet, burn it into a CD and play it in your car on the drive back from a romantic dinner, hopefully with your wife. Or still better, load it onto that Apple iPod or Rio player and keep it with you all the time. Better yet, take 4,000 of your favorite songs with you all the time. This personal innovation trend is now breaking in to the once impenetrable world of voice communications. In addition to substituting for voice calls by using email, instant messaging programs, more and more you can use voice over internet product or services. You can download for free a piece of software right now and call people all over the world using your smart machine, bypassing much, if not all, of the traditional phone network. Voice over the internet providers are now offering services that use the internet to bring consumers a bevy of personal choices. With an internet phone, you can log in at any location in the world and have your phone ring at that location using the same old number. You can tell your IP phone what hours not to ring, say at dinner. You can pick an area code from your hometown and use it in another state. The possibilities are endless, and they are brought about by those same technological forces: powerful silicon chips, storage, speedy access to the internet. And these services are quickly coming to market. The FCC embraces this direction. We look to the internet, entrepreneurs, and technology for the world of tomorrow, rather than the telephone, monopoly, and overregulation. As the FCC, we embrace the vision of tomorrow that gives individuals this freedom to be in control. Just in recent months, we have passed the local number portability rule so a user can keep her personal number when switching services. Personalization. We have provided more unlicensed spectrum so that innovators can use it to make low-cost computing and communication products and let consumers network devices in their home and access the internet without wires. Hotspots have sprouted up all over the country where we dwell. Starbucks coffee, hotels, public parks, airport lounges are all places you can now wirelessly connect to the internet. Sales of Wi-Fi chips grew from just 5 million in 2000 to an estimated 35 million this year. We have promoted technologies like ultra-wideband that soon will let you get rid of all those pesky wires and connections in your home. Imagine buying that flat-screen TV you see in the ad and a surround sound system, and they come with just one cord to plug in for power. The TV on your wall might actually look like it does in the advertisement. Now I know what a lot of you are thinking. We've heard this garbage before during the dot-com boom. It all flopped. Things did look really wildly exciting just a few years ago. Companies were changing their names to strange glowing symbols of the new thing. E became the only letter that seemed to matter in the alphabet. The old economy was out, replaced by the new, and even that venerable punctuation mark, the period, got a hip makeover, becoming the dot. rejecting as passé being known as the punctuation formerly known as period. After the crash, we all retreated to do our penance for being so wild and reckless. Back to fundamentals and hard-soled shoes. Risk-taking became a thing of the past. And many secretly enjoyed watching 25-year-old millionaires crumble and return to jobs at Dairy Queen, dishing out soft-serve ice cream cones. I see some of them in their room smiling. But despite the crash, technological advances marched forward relentlessly, undeterred by a sluggish economy, undeterred by war, undeterred by disease. The microchip continued to increase in speed at an astonishing rate. Memory continued to double and triple while prices fell. Optical technology surged forward as photons worked to overtake electrons as the mail carrier of communications, just as patent clerk second class Albert Einstein would have imagined. We have seen nothing more than the classic boom-bust cycle of all new technologies, but it is always followed by a golden age, just as it was with railroads and other technologies. As our economy briskly recovers, we are poised for a golden age of information technology. And we have a coming generation of early adopters that intend to drink it up. But what can business expect? Business will face great opportunities, but serious challenges as well. For starters, there is an entire generation of early adopters emerging. These kids will try out new products and services and take risks that their elders are reluctant to do. For example, many young people are already cutting the cord and do not subscribe to local or long-distance home service at all, instead choosing to use their wireless phone as their own phone, again, because of the personalization. This Homo digitalis child is comfortable with this new technology, and they present enormous opportunities for new markets, new products, and new services. But beware. If you do not move to serve the needs in the way that they require, these kids know how to use the technology to help themselves. The best example, again, is Napster. I don't think most teenage kids in America want to break the law. But I do think, however, they insist on buying individual songs at low prices, or even free. They want to program the album, assemble the song, and the collections to their liking. They do not want a record label putting one great song in a package with 10 crummy songs and then forcing them to buy the whole thing at ridiculous prices. If industry will not serve that need, this generation will do it themselves. 19-year-old Sean Fanning invented Napster because the record labels didn't. While the record business will fight back, they may have lost a whole generation of consumers who've now come to expect free music. Digital also means providers can invade other markets that their infrastructure long kept them from. Cable companies can use their fiber to deliver telephone service to their customers, as well as data and video product. Phone companies can offer higher value content over DSL lines, such as video. It will be challenging for them to branch out from their core, but the opportunity is there for any bold CEO to snatch. To realize these opportunities, companies do have to surmount major obstacles. First, the digital migration means that companies that grew up in the analog world have to invest in and rebuild their infrastructure in order to compete with new digital age companies in providing the new services that consumers and businesses want. The dilemma for an incumbent is that they have to invest capital today to generate uncertain revenue tomorrow that might cannibalize today's business. They have little choice, for if they don't, someone else will, and they will be dead. This is the classic innovator's dilemma. And the march is on. Cable companies have had to rebuild networks to compete with digital satellite systems. Telephone companies have to upgrade copper to compete with cable TV's broadband service. Television broadcasters are moving to replace analog service with digital service to compete. All this investment is critical if one hopes to have any chance whatsoever to compete for the business of the digital generation. Second, I tell you that competition in communications is going to be brutally intense. This comes not just from public policy that now favors competition over the state-supported monopoly model, but more dramatically it'll come from the rapid technological erosion of the walls that have long separated industry segments from each other. Not long ago, you would have said SBC is a telephone company. Comcast is a cable company. T-Mobile, a cell phone company. NBC, a television company. They enjoyed near monopoly positions within their lanes and had no significant cause for concern from companies in other lanes. But with digitalization transforming all communication services into data applications that can run on any platform, these barriers will fall, revealing new and formidable competitors. Any player with a digital platform can now play in the game. But you ain't seen nothing yet. The internet threat is even greater. Over the internet, applications are completely separated from the infrastructure. Now services can all be software applications that ride over the platform as bits. A consumer can download a piece of software over a broadband connection and set up their own communications channel. Your kids are doing it already. The programs they use, like AOL, instant messaging, and Skype, voice, video, and data, will ride over the internet networks easily. The fact that applications are divorced also means companies you've never heard of in the communication space are suddenly competitors, like Microsoft, Intel, and Apple. Apple, for example, sells a high-quality web camera that, combined with free software, enables very easy computer-to-computer video conferencing to anyone with broadband connections, all for $149. What did any of you recently pay for video conferencing services? The once vaunted picture phone the phone companies promised finally has been delivered in the internet age. Third, innovation is going to be the most important driver of success. Most telephone companies and cable companies are accustomed to mature, high-quality networks. Innovations from the company over the years have been leisurely. While star 69 and call waiting are fine, we can expect much more in the internet environment. And because the software world and the computer world follow Moore's law, innovations will keep coming more rapidly and from more sectors. Companies will have to operate faster, more nimble organizations. They will have to get comfortable with greater risk-taking and with failure. They will have to invest in research and development. Small companies unburdened by legacy networks will spring up constantly and attack. Products will have to be reinvented regularly. This is a sea change for traditional communications. And at the Commission, we are moving in a direction that embraces revolutionary change. We know we have to help get broadband built and deployed to every American. We are 10th in the world right now, an unacceptable position for the world's leading economy. We're trying to change that. We have adopted policies that provide incentive for building fiber to homes by eliminating unnecessary regulations so that entrepreneurs can focus on their businesses and not filling out regulatory forms and hiring lobbyists. We have particularly explored opportunities to lower regulatory barriers in rural and underserved areas. We have pushed for more platforms that deliver digital content. We believe in getting multiple digital pipes to your home: cable modem, DSL, Wi-Fi, fixed wireless, power line networks, satellites, and I dare say anything else that emerges from the innovator's garage. We also understand the continuing challenge of protecting our citizens from those who would wish us harm. We push for more competitors in order to have redundant networks, so that if one is knocked out, there are alternatives. We have supported efforts to develop best practices and better secure those networks. We also see the need to better empower police and fire departments as first responders in an emergency, releasing more spectrum for their use, which help them communicate with different agencies. We are driving the wireless industry to deploy E911 services that can pinpoint the location of a caller in need. We have expanded programs to support telemedicine in rural America so everyone has access to a top doctor, not just being accessible to the well-to-do. These efforts mean technology will not just touch lives, it will save lives. The 20th century was the American century. And it was not just the triumph of democracy over communism, but the triumph of free market capitalism over central planned economies. So now we turn to the future and ask, how will we fare in the 21st century? Will we forget the lessons we learned, that the free market is the kiln where invention and creativity are fired, a place where risk, well executed, is rewarded? With the arrival of new markets and new services will come great opportunities for growth. The deepening deployment of information technology is leading to greater productivity. The United States remains the global leader in IT exports. The jobs our children will need will be created in fields that demand greater technical skill. And the need to maintain technological superiority is vital to keep the upper hand against those trying to harm us. But all the signs don't point in our favor. As I said, we lag badly in broadband deployment. More and more jobs dependent on this 21st century architecture are going offshore to China and India. And we risk worsening trade deficits if more and more products and services that could be produced here at home are driven to other corners of the world where our citizens can order them just as easily if they were down the street. A revolution is rarely led by government officials. We must place our faith in entrepreneurs and not extinguish the burning energy of innovation with the wet blanket of overregulation, as some seem to prefer. The information age should be a period of great glory for the United States. We have always tilled the richest soil for innovation and entrepreneurship, the clear touchstones of the next generation. The premium we place in our society on individual freedom and empowerment are culturally suited to the characteristics of the technology age. We need national commitment to embrace the potential of the next century and drive it forward. Our children have sampled the promise, and we must make for them a world in which they can work, learn, play, communicate in the manner that they are used to and that they expect. They deserve nothing less as the heirs to the American dream. Happy holidays, God bless you, and thank you for having me.
Hello. All right, we're going to do it this way. All right. As is our custom, we have the Questions Committee has developed actually 4 pages worth of questions. They were very prolific. Michael, it's estimated that over 400 to 600,000 transfers of motion picture files occur each day over the Internet. Yet the Commission delayed a ruling last month on the issue of copy protection of such content. Does the FCC have a plan for the electronic protection of movie files?
Well, let's move on quickly. We did vote that proceeding, and that one's over. So, yeah, we do, and we executed it.
Maybe I will ask all the questions. Have the recent corporate scandals and their impact on public opinion inhibited your ability to drive deregulation? What underlies the public backlash against deregulation?
Short answer is yes. Government works much like business cycles do. Free markets can be in and they can be out. And an ethos of heavy regulation can be in, and some cycles it's out. Sometimes that's just an ideological struggle, but it's often when corporate America fails its citizens. And the backlash is enormous. And when our citizens are harmed, they demand their government come forward to protect them, as their government should. Problem is, government isn't particularly precise when it moves in this direction, and it often overreaches in its efforts. I think that we seem to need to relearn every few decades what the power of free market American capitalism is. We need to remind ourselves that I have yet to meet the central planning regulator who is smarter in allocating goods and services and products in our economy than the market is. I've not met that person yet. We tend to forget what are the conditions that inspire innovation, risk-taking, and reward that lead to jobs and opportunities in the United States. And we tend to believe that our policymakers will be better at that than the market will be. The problem is two things are happening. Government's getting slower, and the market's getting faster. You have to ask yourself, no matter how smart you think you are, is it futile to be chasing technology regulation that doubles and triples in speed and capacity every 18 months? We don't get rulemakings out in 18 months. The ink can be, before the ink is dry, the rule has the risk of being obsolete. So you really have to come up with a much more creative and dynamic way to think about public policy in a world that's going to demand an understandable regulatory environment at a very fast pace. And I think government is still working hard to struggle for the cultural change that it has to go through, the regulatory approach it has to go to. But I do think history's told us what the big cornerstone of that is, and that's the free market.
Are there any more of you in Washington?
Sure.
How do you rate local television news in general? Do you see the commitment to local news changing if the nation's media companies become larger?
I think the nature of news and information in total are changing no matter what we do. If you go tonight home to the internet and click on Google, you will see a product that has, at an instant, 4,000 sources of news immediately captured. And the Google algorithm will refresh those sources every few minutes. Every paper from every corner of the world is there. Every news content product. Microsoft, feeling the threat from these 25-year-old cool Google guys, is coming out with their own. Many Americans now cite, in the surveys we conducted, as the internet as their primary source of news. It fits all the things I talked about. It's there when they're ready for it, and only what it is they choose to see. Now, I don't submit something isn't lost by that. There was a communal spirit to the idea this country sat down at 6:30 or 7 o'clock and watched Walter Cronkite. And that's what we talked about the next day. It's somewhat anxious and disorienting that the next day you and I might have all different kinds of information based on our personal interests that may or may not be a common bond. That causes a lot of stress and anxiety, I think, but you're not going to stop it. I think that local news has a bright future, but it is going, because I think the technology wants to personalize, it wants to drive opportunity to smaller units, the local market, and to individuals. And I think that local news is doing a decent job. I don't think they're doing a stellar job, but I think they're doing a decent job. But the real problem for them is not even bigger companies. It's going to be whether they figure out how to turn that product into the things that follow the features of personalization, but delivering it at the time that the consumer wants it, and doing it quickly. I wish I could measure this, but I say to people, I believe no one in this society is any more than 6 minutes away from from any major breaking news story in the world. It's probably true. If something happened right now in Saudi Arabia, someone's BlackBerry will go off. Or someone right outside the door saw it on the TV screen. Or someone just down the hall heard it on the radio or saw it on the internet. And it spreads faster than at any time in global history. I think the bigger challenge for news and news organizations is not going to be delivering contemporary local issues. It's going to figure out how to sort garbage from truth. I think the problem in America is not scarcity, it's abundancy. We're drowning in media. You're drowning in it. It oozes from your pores. You cannot walk in any place. You cannot walk in your home. You can't walk in your office. You can't go in your... It is pouring out over you. And so the traditional functions of editor or library science of teaching my kid what a primary source is. My kid knows research equals Google. Dad, I found it on the internet. There are billions of things. How do you know it's right? Well, it's on the internet. That's a problem. So my challenge to news organizations and to those who serve a function in delivering this information is not whether we get enough of it, is what role you're going to help play in helping us organize and understand it. I'll leave you with this. You know, I have one of these, I get in trouble for this all the time, but I love it. I have a TiVo. Who has a TiVo, I hope? So some, you know, come on, you can be proud about this. I know there are broadcasters up here. They'll forgive you. They're aware of it. But why do I like it? Because I look through a universe of 300 channels and I do my programming, what we will watch tonight for us. Right? That's a machine helping me get a handle on excess information. You can't channel surf 300 channels. And when there are 500, you'll be worse. How are you going to find the good stuff? One of the things I've defended in this media debate is, I think a lot of it is conducted by people who don't watch TV, number one. I don't think the problem is there's too much. I think it's too hard to find the good stuff. Not that it's not there. It's about getting it and finding it. I can talk TV. I'll sit up here with anybody and debate what's available on your dial. But the problem is at a given moment in time, you're drowning. And so I think that's what news organizations and leaders of news are going to have to do.
Thank you, Michael. Two more questions. Is the current radio spectrum allocation in place sufficient to the needs of Wi-Fi? If not, will it be expanded? And is it realistic to expect that additional spectrum can be auctioned off?
Well, half the room probably doesn't even know what that question's about. What is Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is a wireless technology that the FCC provides spectrum for, but you don't need a license. What we say is, in this band, you can build products that use these airwaves without getting government permission in advance. And you just have to follow the technical requirements. This is a perfect regulation versus free market story. Because the FCC, when it first did this and provided unlicensed band, it thought the spectrum was junk. So it decided we don't need to bother regulating and licensing it because it's for baby monitors and excess radiation coming out of your microwave oven. Who cares? Just put it out there. Funny thing happened on the way to the forum. Those guys in Silicon Valley got a hold of it. And all of a sudden, products start emerging that use the spectrum to access the internet in your home. And for about $100, you can go buy this box, plug it into your broadband connection, and every computer in your house can share that connection at the same time. More and more, every device you're going to have next Christmas season is going to have this card in it. Your cell phone, your laptops, your PDAs. And so anywhere where there's a wireless signal, you will be able to access the internet. In my hotel room, as soon as I turned my computer on, my computer's told me about the networks that it was picking up in this area. And so the issue has become, will the FCC provide more spectrum for that? We just did. We opened up a whole new band to do this, so there's going to be a lot more coming. And I just spent a week in California, in Silicon Valley, and let me tell you, they're ready for it, and they're about to blow your socks off, what they're about to do. Give you an example. Your cell phone, how many go home, but they don't get good signal in their house? So what you do is you put your cell phone down and kind of turn it off for the night and use the phone. But what if the phone has a Wi-Fi chip and can roam off the cell network, and when you're in your house, immediately connect to the Wi-Fi network in your house, and you can make voice over internet calls with the same device? Well, next Christmas you'll be able to do that. My TiVo, the one I told you I like so much, has a Wi-Fi antenna in it, and me and my wife can sit in the room and pull music from any computer in the house into the TV and listen to it. You know, Al Green, never mind. Or our family pictures. We just sit in the room and can watch them because they're all pulling them in off Wi-Fi. So yes, the FCC is a passionate believer in it, and we do think there'll be potential for more.
Last question. On the FCC website, there's a photo gallery featuring candid pictures of you under headings such as at the office, across the country, around the world, and fun moments. The fun moments include photos of you with Aretha Franklin, Donnie and Marie Osmond, and SpongeBob SquarePants. Are there other fun moments you're looking forward to sharing on the site?
Wait till you see my Chicago Economic Club picture. It's gonna be you're going to be right next to SpongeBob. No, we have to have fun. That's all I'm going to say. I am blessed for 6 years to have a front seat at a revolution. And there's nothing greater than having the privilege to be a participant in the greatest undertaking of your generation. And so I have fun, whether it be with Aretha. That's my diva collection, by the way. I have a few more to get, and I'll be ready to quit. But the world is for our children. And I am privileged to have a chance to help make that for them, and all of you will be a part of making that for them too. Thank you.
Well, that was thank you enough for Michael. And I want to thank the speakers table very much for being with us tonight. Thank you all for coming. Have a safe and happy holiday, and the meeting's adjourned.